I have found that moving center, which I'm holding on to as fast and furiously as possible, reminds me of coming out of the closet.
Mm-hmm.
It was that hard for me when you're like, no, 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 I'm not gay, I'm bisexual.
Yeah.
No, no, no. And it's like, I'm liberal, I'm center, and I'm center right. But Anna, I haven't changed.
Yeah. I think that there's a lot going on with.
We're about to have a look at a conversation between Ana Kasparian from the Young Turks and Jillian Michaels on Jillian Michaels' show here, Keeping It Real. But I found this conversation to be rather profound because we've been seeing more and more lately that Ana Kasparian seems to be questioning these woke lefty ideology. And in this one, she basically stops short of saying that she has left the left. I mean, she doesn't say it directly, but when you listen to what she says and the explanation that she gives as to why she is being open-minded and when she questions things, the reaction that the left gives her versus the reaction that she sees from the right, you have to believe that she's on her way to completely leaving the Democratic Party. Now, I don't know a whole lot about her because, frankly, her fellow co-founder over at the Young Turks, Cenk Uygur, is completely sold out to the lefty Democratic Party. And, I believe that he's probably, taking some kind of money. He's obviously being paid for his takes because, he makes money off his channel. But I'm beginning to wonder, and this is probably the case, that Ana Kasparian's experience sitting next to Cenk in all of his unhinged, nonsensical rants and his opinions and his lack of willingness to actually hear and have a conversation with anybody on the other side of the aisle is giving her a perspective as a potential free thinker to the reality of the situation that's going on when it comes to the culture in America and politics in America, right? I mean, Cenk is right there. Cenk, whatever his name is, sitting right there next to her. And so she gets fully exposed to the rhetoric that he presents. And when she has these debates with people like Matt Walsh or Ben Shapiro or Dave Rubin or, many of the other, pundits on the right, she is actually willing to listen and, I'll quote David Pacman, have a good faith argument and discussion with them, which is rare amongst people on the left, right? They typically, especially like David Pacman, they typically, proclaim that we want to have a good faith argument, but then they proceed in bad faith and they really get nowhere. And so anyways, in this one, I'm really looking forward to showing it to you because in this one, which I'm really looking forward to showing you guys, and I think you guys are going to enjoy, I was really surprised at the conversation that went on and the explanation and story that Ana Kasparian tells to host Jillian Michael. So let's go ahead and just check it out.
Political identities, and in a lot of ways, the two parties have also realigned on certain issues. The things that I used to not like about the Republican Party have kind of been adopted by the Democratic Party.
Yes.
And then you have like factions within the party. Some are more extreme than others, but lately it feels as though the extreme factions of each party has kind of taken over the entire party. And that happens because people who are more, I wouldn't say centrist, but like more moderate in their views or a little more understanding and sympathetic to the other side, they just feel out of place. They feel like they're committing some sort of crime, right? That they're not being loyal enough to their tribe. And so I can totally understand feeling like as you become more and more open and honest about what you're feeling, I can see the similarity of like coming out and how scary that is. Like it's super scary. And I know from firsthand experience how scary it is.
I've watched videos of you a year ago, and you essentially talk about feeling politically orphaned.
Homeless. Yeah.
But you identify still on the left. Talk to me about where you're at.
I'm at a point where I actually do not want to be pigeonholed in any political tribe or identity because everything has become very dogmatic. And if you don't buy into the entirety of the dogma, you open yourself up to backlash and being, kicked out of the tribe. And it's like, it's not a fun experience. But I think when you come at every issue from a place of, all right, well, I want to get to the bottom of this story. I want to know what the truth is. What's the reality? That, first of all, allows for more exploring and understanding. And I can't emphasize enough how much happier you become once you have a better understanding of the world around you and those you disagree with politically. Because right now, there's, in my opinion, this effort to like really demonize and even dehumanize the other side. And there's a lot of fear mongering going on. And if you have bought into that narrative, then you're going to walk through life thinking that half the country is full of like neo-Nazis and, they're going to want to harm you. They're going to want to, destroy the country. And I just don't think that's a healthy way of looking at the other side. I think that there are gradations. I think there are, of course, extremes, but I don't think the extremes should be used to paint a picture of the entirety of the Republican voting base or vice versa.
It's either libtards and commies or Nazis.
That binary way of thinking is just not rooted in reality at all.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And that's why when I've watched you debate with Ben Shapiro, and even the preamble you guys have had for 10 minutes about, I really enjoyed the relationship that we have. I really enjoyed that we can have this civil discourse. I really like you as a person. And then it's like, and you still like each other.
Yeah.
It's so comforting. I can't even tell you.
Well, I think that's how political discussions used to happen in the country. I mean, I don't know when it changed to the point where if you disagree with someone politically, well, that means that you can no longer be friendly to each other. You can't be friends. I mean, during the Trump era, so many families were torn apart over political disagreements. And by the way, I'm speaking all high and mighty. I just want to take a moment to take ownership of the fact that I fully bought into that mind frame. Like I totally bought into that. And there's a video floating out there somewhere of me basically saying, no, you can't be friends with someone who supports Trump or has these views because it's giving you a sense of who they really are as a person and they're a bad person.
Right.
Right? That
deplorables.
Yeah, exactly. I remember when Hillary Clinton made the deplorable statement.
I worked for the Clintons. I loved the Clintons.
And then she apologized for it because she was getting backlash. And I remember at that time being upset with her for apologizing because I had fully bought into, no, these people are deplorable. These people are terrible. And it took a lot of growing to realize that there are a lot of Republican voters who actually do not like some of the things that Donald Trump says because he does say divisive things. He does say hateful things.
I hate that too.
But there are certain issues that he speaks to, right? Certain either economic issues, anything that might have to do with the deindustrialization of like the Rust Belt. Those are issues that really resonate with them because no other politician has sincerely addressed those issues. They've been neglected. They've been ignored. And they've been ignored by what they view as the political elites. And so they see Trump come in, and yeah, he's a little unhinged in some of the things he says, but they see him as like a wrecking ball to the political elite or this
establishment.
The establishment, exactly. And once I was able to really fully grasp that and understand that, and by the way, once I started to understand the flaws in my own party, it helped me kind of begin this journey of rejecting political tribalism and not wanting to be pigeonholed into any political group. I want to feel free to think for myself and to explore ideas without feeling guilty about it.
So I wanted to talk about a couple of things that she mentioned there. First of all was the political discourse and the conversations that we're able to have. I want to tell you guys that one of my best friends in the world is a hardcore Trump-hating TDS Democrat, right? But he's a good guy. And I think that gives me a good perspective in that I'm able to stay grounded and realize who these people actually are that disagree with Trump. And I feel like it's important for people to have these conversations amongst friends and amongst family. Unfortunately, some people can't handle it, and it eventually breaks up a friendship or, worse, breaks up, families. But that's not the way that it should be. In my opinion, the way that it should be is that you're my friend, I'm your friend. If we can't talk about this, how can I have this conversation with anybody else, right? Because we know who each other are before going into this conversation, which is a different perspective from the traditional, I don't talk politics with my friends, I don't talk politics with my family. You know, it's kind of a pussy perspective. Forgive my way of wording it, but that's just how I see it. If you're not willing to and unable to have these type of conversations with your friends who disagree with you politically, right? I mean, why are you friends if you can't disagree on something and still stay friends? That's not really a very good friendship, in my opinion, you know? And like I said, if you can't have a conversation amongst your friends, who can you talk to? And the other thing that she mentioned was that Trump can come off as like deranged or whatever it was. I can't remember how she worded it, but in my opinion, it's just not presidential in a lot of people's eyes, right? It's not what we've been trained a seasoned politician is supposed to behave like. But that's the problem. People expect Donald Trump to be the same political level as, you know, these career politicians that have spent their whole entire life in politics. And he's not. He's a New York businessman who has the cunning, the cojones, and the ability to fix financial situations. And I know I can already hear the Democrats on the left saying, oh, but he filed bankruptcy all these times and stuff. You know, well, that's what comes with taking risk. Whenever you take a risk, you're willing to fail at times, and then you learn from those experiences, and nobody's perfect. Okay. And I'm also able to call out Trump's failures as a politician. He should have never signed that COVID bill that gave all that money away and kind of started this free flow of, you know, checks going out to people just because of COVID. I did not like that. I didn't like a lot of the things that were in that bill. And, you know, frankly, in my opinion, he shouldn't have signed it. He also shouldn't be co-signing to the jab so hard, in my opinion, you know. But, and I say that to establish the fact that, look, I'm not this tribal Trump can't be wrong or whatever type of person, which I believe I represent, you know, the America First MAGA for the most part. Of course, we're not always going to agree on everything, but I want to point that out, that I'm not out here hanging on Trump's words to find out what my next move is. The reason I like Donald Trump is because he says the things that I'm thinking, and then he goes out and he has the ability to magnify my voice, my will, and my reason into the political sphere, right? And he's that bull in the china shop that we have the opportunity to elect again to send into that, you know, because I believe these career politicians have lost sight of their actual duty in that they're supposed to serve the American people, and Donald Trump still gets that part, okay? So Ana Kasparian hasn't completely left the left. She still kind of repeats some of that rhetoric and is still lacking maybe some of the understanding, but she's piecing it together, and she's willing to learn, and she's willing to understand, and I think it's just a matter of time. But let's get back into this. I didn't mean to speak so long because this is a great conversation. I won't pause it again until the end.
You know?
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. I think for me, as a devout liberal who always thought I was the better person, I thought we were the good guys. I really did. I was brought up that way. And I thought, if you're a Republican, you want war. If you're a Republican, you don't care. I have changed my mind on a lot of this stuff, but you're ridiculous with your gun laws. If you're a Republican, you hate gays. If you're a Republican, you're a racist. I really honestly took the bait. And then Trump was so belligerent when he first began running, and they're all rapists and racists coming over the border or whatever, criminals. And that was really abrasive. And I live in a border state. We live in a border state, you know, my whole life up until recently. And it felt like an assault on all of these wonderful people I saw who were economic migrants wanting a better life.
Right.
And, you know, then it was the woman's right to choose, and we're taking that away, and gay marriage, that's going. And I was appalled. Then I met my wife, and oh my God, I can't believe we're married because she was a Republican. And I was like, what is wrong with you? How could you possibly? And I'll never forget, she's like, you think you're such a good person. You think you're so liberal and so understanding. You guys are the least understanding, the least accepting, and the least tolerant of anybody who doesn't agree with you. Cut to, I started hearing everywhere, or at least focusing on it. Oh, well, they voted for Trump, so I had to cut them out. Oh, I haven't spoken to my mother. She's a Trump supporter. I remember seeing a post on social, and I've talked about it a lot. It was on this blog called Scary Mommy. That was supposed to be funny. We're supposed to make fun of what shitty moms we were. It's supposed to be funny.
Right.
Which became political. And it was like, if you pray to Allah, I'll sit next to you on the bus. If you are gay married, like I'll hold your hand. All these things about you're allowed to be on the fringe and I will accept you. In the comments, what if I'm wearing a MAGA hat? And the answer was, well, if you're not a racist or a bigot or a this or a that, sure.
Yeah.
And I saw it. I saw it so clearly. And then another person who's friends with my wife was like, don't you understand? These people that your party is demonizing, like they work 2 jobs to make ends meet. Like they go to church.
Exactly.
They try to be a better person. Like they're just trying to get by, and you're calling them ignorant for being religious, like racist, bigoted. So they feel completely abandoned, disenfranchised, and demonized, and Trump is speaking to them.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, since I kind of started speaking out against some of the behaviors of the left or on the left, of course, that led to a lot of backlash from the left because you're not, you're only supposed to call out the other side. You should never, hold your own side accountable when they're engaging in intolerant behavior. But once I finally felt comfortable enough to raise concerns about how the left talks about crime, for instance, and things like that, they couldn't wait to like purge me. Like I really did notice that there was this effort to just do away with me. I'm not pure enough. I'm not good enough. Like you're not one of us. And I had already gotten to a point in my life where I was willing to accept that treatment as long as I was able to speak my mind. And it took me at least a year, if not more, to finally feel comfortable to come out and say, no, the way that we're handling homelessness is not the right way to handle it. No, it turns out that crime is real and there are some people in society who are a danger and a threat to the public and they should be in prison. And, I was saying this stuff in the left-wing era of abolish the police or abolish the prison, the prisons. And as they were trying to purge me, you have the right wing asking you to come join with open arms, right? And it's just so interesting to me. Look, I'm not a Republican and I'm a little more socially conservative than I was when I was younger, but not on issues like gay marriage or whatever. It's more on, actually police are important and we need to reform policing, yes, but the idea that we need to, shut down prisons, which we have in California. We've shut down 4 of them. Now there's no room for inmates and they're just releasing people as early as possible with this BS like good behavior credits when they're behind bars. No transparency on that. We don't know like what they did to deserve to get like 20 years shaved off their sentence. But okay. So like this stuff is all going on. And I have a few views that have changed and evolved, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm in line with the Republican Party.
Right.
But they don't care. They don't care that I have some differences with them. What they care about is, honestly, on one hand, if I'm being cynical, power. They understand that in order to be a powerful party, you need to be more welcoming and you need to have broader coalitions of people. I think there's a side of the Republican Party that understands that. But there's also this faction in the Republican voting base that consists of disaffected Democrats. And I don't know if they've fully bought into what Republicans are selling, but they don't feel welcome on the left. So they've been absorbed onto the right.
Yes.
And I'm seeing the right wing change.
Yes.
They went from the neocon pro-war party to now all of a sudden, what are we doing in like the Middle East right now? What are we doing in Ukraine? Like, why are we doing this? We have our problems here. Can we please handle our problems here? And I now see that Dick Cheney is endorsing Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is going around town talking about how honored she is. And I'm like, you're honored to be endorsed by a war criminal? I mean, if I were in her shoes, I would like pull Dick Cheney aside and be like, listen, thank you for your support, but can we just keep this on the DL?
Totally.
You know? But
Yes.
she's like proud of it. She's flaunting it. And that's not the party that represents me or represents my best interests.
I don't know about you, but I really enjoyed this conversation. I was completely surprised to hear the opinion of Ana Kasparian and her experience in dealing with the left. She said a lot of the unspoken things that people on the right have accused the left of being out loud, in that, you know, if you're not hardcore on the left, they are quick to throw you out of the party. But folks on the right, folks that are MAGA, folks that are America First specifically, I think, they understand that we're more alike than we're different. And we also understand forgiveness. And maybe that's because of the more Christian type of background. Regardless of whatever it is, I appreciate that Ana Kasparian is able to go through this experience and say it in such a way that it's easy to understand. Jillian Michaels is completely taken aback, and she relates to and can understand exactly what Ana Kasparian is saying because she's seen some of this stuff in her own life, apparently. And I gotta admit, I don't know a whole lot about Jillian Michaels. I've only recently been introduced to her, and so I'm giving her a fair shake. I don't know much about her past. I'm gonna judge her based on what I see going forward, for the most part, right? You know, and so I'm gonna cut this one off right here just for the sake of time. But I gotta admit, I really enjoyed this video, watching these two have this conversation, and I hope you guys did too. If you did, make sure to hit that like button, share this video, subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment letting me know as well if you'd like to see more of it, because this is only a small portion and there's more to show you guys, but I just didn't want this video to be a half hour long. And so anyways, like I said, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're having a good day. Thank you for watching to the end, and I'll see you guys in the next one.